Tonight, members of the Texas National Guard are now stationed at a military facility outside Chicago. They've been mobilized by President Trump, who's repeatedly said that crime is out of control in the city. Now, we're learning what they'll be tasked with. Late today, an official with the U.S. Border Patrol in Chicago spoke with CNN's Priscilla Alvarez.
Facility protection, obviously, is going to be front and center to that, whether it's the Broadview facility or any other federal facility that may need protection. The National Guard will be deployed there. And again, that frees up agents that are now helping to protect those facilities. So it's facility protection and then quick response forces if needed.
Illinois and Chicago are suing to stop the deployment of federalized National Guard troops. A federal judge is going to hear the case Thursday. Meantime, a judge in Oregon has temporarily halted the deployment, of the National Guard in Portland. But the president said again today that he'll consider invoking the Insurrection Act if the courts block him.
It's been invoked before, as you know. If you look at Chicago, Chicago's a great city where there's a lot of crime. And if the governor can't do the job, we'll do the job. It's all very simple.
The president's getting support from some Senate Republicans who say he needs to keep all options on the table. Limited clashes between protesters and law enforcement in both cities this past weekend are adding fuel to the president's arguments that troops are needed. We'll check in with Shimon Prokupecz in Portland in a moment, but I want to begin with CNN's Omar Jimenez in Chicago. So we heard the specifics from Border Patrol Commander about what the Guard is expected to do in Chicago, basically protecting buildings. Is that what local officials are expecting, primarily facility protection?
Well, I'm sure based on what we've heard from local officials to this point, that seems to be one of the clearest indications of what they can expect at this point, that if these National Guard troops are deployed to federal buildings, then it frees up agents to do other things. But what we've seen over the course of today is essentially the beginning of this chapter that we had heard had been coming for quite some time. We've been tracking the movements here at this Army Reserve Training Center outside Chicago. And really over the course of the day, I mean, first of all, they put up this fence in the hours after the Texas National Guard deployed here. And you can actually see maybe with these lights, there's a few military uniformed personnel coming in and out of these barracks, at least as what they appear to be. Earlier, there was a lot more movement as well as we sort of started seeing them to arrive here in this area. The question, though, is now that the Texas National Guard is here, what will the scope of their deployment actually look like? Will it just be to protect federal property and personnel, as we sort of have heard to this point, or will it be more community-facing, which has been one of the concerns from folks in the community who have had multiple run-ins with federal immigration enforcement to this point? So that's one of the lingering questions. Now that we know they're here, what's next, Anderson?
All right, Omar Jimenez, thanks very much. Joining me now, former Chicago Mayor Rahm Emanuel. I mean, does this make any sense to you? This is now deployment of the National Guard, not for crime in Chicago, it's for facility protection to free up resources of, I guess, ICE.
Hey, look, public safety is a serious issue, and I don't think it's being dealt very seriously by the president or his effort. They've, as far as I can tell, never reached out to Superintendent Snelling, very good superintendent, and asked him, okay, what do you need?
Superintendent of police,
Chicago, or in any city for that matter, or Los Angeles, or Portland, or any city. What do you need? I mean, the basic strategy of reducing crime is putting more police on the street and getting kids, gangs, and guns off the street. There's a ton of things the federal government could partner with a local who know the area. And National Guard from Texas, they don't know Grand Crossing, they don't know Englewood, they don't know Woodlawn, they don't know any of these communities. I think defunding the police was a stupid idea. I think sending in the National Guard is a ridiculous idea. It's about community policing, knowing the neighborhoods, knowing the residents of that neighborhood, and working with them. And I think this is something the president's always wanted to do in search of a reason for doing it.
It seems also now an equation of, there was the American carnage the first time around. I mean, this is an extension of, these cities are hellholes, they're falling apart. Even though Dave Axelrod was on the program last night reading what the Trump Hotel is advertising in Chicago, and it sounds lovely there right now, actually, according to the Trump Hotel. But this is equating crime also then with immigration and immigrants, and that's the linkage here.
Anderson, everybody wants law and order. None of this is following the law, and it's definitely creating more disorder than order. As simple as that. And, I'm sure David said this, but His condo is right there on the Riverwalk. I mean, his hotel and his building and condos. Condos are going for millions of dollars. That's not disorder. That's not crime out of control. There's a crime problem. Full stop. There's a public safety problem. As somebody who visited kids in hospitals, there's a way for the federal government to say, we're going to fund and train police officers and recruit them for you. We're going to pay and help you with resources for kids for after school hours so they have a mentor doing athletic, academic, artistic activity. We're going to prosecute the 3 or 4% who are overwhelmingly committing overwhelmingly the amount of crime and help go after the gang members that are really the problem. There is a menu of things the federal government could go to any police chief, any mayor, and say, how do we help you? How do we partner with you?
That's not what this is about.
Zero. This isn't even close. It's not a second cousin. It's not, no. This is something the president's always wanted to do because he wants to own these cities and make them something. And let me, that is part of his image that he could call out the National Guard. The other thing is the Chicago Police Department is 12,000 officers. 200 officers, not even one of the 22 districts. It doesn't even add up. So the idea you're going to bring public safety to a city where the problem is not just about police officers, that's a central piece of this, or law enforcement, but there's another set of components on prosecution, investments in after-school programs, like a whole set of things that the government can do. But 200 guardsmen from Texas who don't know any of the community or any of the residents of the city of Chicago are not going to do anything on public safety, and they're definitely not going to do anything on immigration efforts.
I mean, there have been some who suggested that.
And I mean that by when the president said we're going to go after criminal elements, that is different than what he's doing, taking people that are following the law, going to court, following the procedures of the law, and nabbing them. That's why I said this is not either fighting crime or enforcing the immigration laws according to
There have been some who've said that they think this is a sort of an idea of like normalizing the presence of U.S. military forces or National Guard forces in major cities in America.
I don't know. This is bringing back my old White House days. Right about now, across the national security apparatus of the White House, State Department, Defense Department, Pentagon, is the National Defense Strategy. That's put out in the next couple months. That's going to say something about China, weapons of mass destruction, Iran, Russia. Are you going to say in that document that the American cities are the equal threat to our security like China, Iran, and weapons of mass destruction? And if you're not, then what is this? And if you are, then you're going to follow through with the President of the United States that the cities we're going to use them as training grounds. As a former ambassador to Japan, we used to organize Australia, Japan, Korea, India in major military exercise with the president. You don't, with the United States rather. You don't do it in American cities.
Yeah. Rahm Emanuel, thanks very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Been fighting so long and so hard that they don't know what the they're doing.